Making sense of complex data with APM, right? That's my presentation for today. I'm with the company Bayer. Maybe that logo is familiar to you. You might have seen this on aspirin before. I'm a mechanical engineer and I joined Bayer in 2014. So I've been with the company, this year will be my 10-year anniversary. Been working in the reliability space for the last 15 years or so. I have experiences in petrochemicals, life sciences. In the past couple of years I've been doing some integration projects as well. Just a bit of a background. I'm not sure if everybody is aware. Bayer is a big company with around 100,000 employees, divided into 3 divisions. The aspirin, that's part of the consumer health division. Pharmaceuticals, prescription medicines, cardiovascular, there's really a broad spectrum there. And then crop science, that's the part of the company that I'm working in. We're represented in 83 countries. You see the number 350 odd companies consolidated within Bayer. And you can see our sales for, I think this was in 2022, is around 50 billion, right? So the numbers have stayed around about the same, but you can see we have a relatively large spend in R&D. Take note of this left bottom corner. Our mission is health for all and hunger for none. Today we're able to get more out of land. The farming community is very happy with us because some of our technology goes into the plants and the food you eat on a daily basis, and the yield of the lands are really part and parcel of what we're doing. So crop science is really the leader in the agriculture environment, and like I mentioned, you know, there's always the need. We have the world climate crisis. We need to produce more people to feed. And we need to, for that reason, we need to be more creative and we need to be innovative. And we do that through a couple of things. Of course, from a crop science perspective, the farmer is our end customer. And we try to provide him with what is required to be successful. And part of, if you see a vegetable or a fruit maybe on your table, it's not like in the olden days. It actually looks good nowadays. There's not that many markings on it, and some of that we take credit for. On the technical innovation, you see there at the bottom, we're also very involved in some big data. So there's really a lot of interesting stuff happening in here. You see the bottom right-hand corner, the farm management systems, that satellite imagery where they really take the images and they analyze that, and according to that they give the farmers feedback to do different things and to understand what's really happening at those farms. From a chemical perspective, so where does this all tie into what you guys are doing on a daily basis, or maybe you're in energy, or maybe you're in chemicals like we? It's to the right, the digital and the data part and really the value part, right? So how do we unlock the value for the end customer? And in our space, this is all about protecting the foods that you eat, and we do that through our crop protection portfolio. And of course, that has a chemical background, right? So from the chemicals, it's really where we do the APM part and where we really get in touch with you on that end. Right, so for the rest of the presentation, this is really to talk you through what we've done. So we had a project, it's called the One APM project, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the background. Talk about the data considerations. So initially the presentation talks about data and complexities of data, but I want to take you through a journey with us on how we got there from A to B, right? So this is a couple of snippets I took from our project. And what you see on the left-hand side, the goal, the first part over here is really to say, you know, what do we want to achieve with the project? And our real goal was to bring 2 systems together, right? You see that in the bubbles at the bottom. We had a Meridium 3.6 system, and we had a 4.3 APM system at the time. coming from different companies, right? So a couple of years back, we did a big acquisition, and to bring those two systems into one, the harmonization of that was really the important part, right? So what we did was we said, well, how will we get there? And the basis is really our best practices. We had best practices, and for that we used that as a baseline for bringing the two systems together, right? On the right-hand side of the introduction slide, you see there, it was, we had to do alignment with our IT and make sure that they're aligned with our way and thinking of what we were going to do. And of course, what we said was we had an initial state and a target state, and the target state was going to version 4.5, and 4.6 was really, I should have maybe changed that part. So we were looking to go to 4.6 at the time. And all of this was underlined by what we have at the right-hand corner there, which is the technology, the people, and the processes, right? Without that, those concepts, nothing would go forward, and we had to consider that in our project. And the challenges was, not only did we have two APM systems, we had multiple SAP systems, right? What this means is we had the 4.3 system connected to two SAP systems. We had the 3.6 connected to one of those two, right? And that in itself had some complications in there. And then the other part was we said we're going to harmonize, right? Bring the things together and ensure business continuity. Now, looking at those two little bubbles over there, you see there's a dotted line, right? Now, this dotted line is very, very small, and that is actually what I meant to say was, where's the complexity of this? It's in the data, right? So what we initially said, what we're going to do is we're going to go from A to B, and it looks like a straight road, right? Getting from A to B is straight, and the data that's between those two systems is quite actually enormous, right? We had a legacy system which had customizations in the 3.6, which was 10 years old. We had a 4.3 system which was in a different company, which had its own customizations. And how do you bring those things together, right? What one company thought was important for them wasn't necessarily important for the other, right? Interpretations of what one guy thinks about a certain thing isn't the same, right? If I talk to you about mechanical integrity, my understanding and your understanding may be different, right? So there's a big gap, even though it looks very little. And then what we said was, how do we go forward, right? Initially, the straight road, we expected the road to be winding, okay, which is understood and everybody can relate to that. But it's like we had these two cars running, and if I go to a different country, I might be driving on the different side of the road, right, or the other side of the road, or I might be in a 4x4 and driving next to the road, right? And that's some of the considerations that we had to do. So in order for us to get closer to the dotted line, we had to set up some rules. And one of those rules were we wanted to go back to standard, right? And with the implications of that, we had to really talk to the people about what it means. And I think one very important aspect that from the start, we were expecting changes to happen as we went through the project. That's normal, we expect that. But how big those changes were, we were really reflecting on that as we went along. I mentioned this before, the content and the context of the data, right? How do we understand something from another company's best practice to a new company's best practice, which is a common best practice for everyone, right? That's small, fine things that we needed to talk about. And then, of course, before the time we were aware that there would be stumbling blocks, right? That's understandable. How big they were, we weren't expecting, right? And there's a couple of other things I jotted down on the slide, but the point here being initial state, target state. That was the goal. And to take you a little bit further into some of the initial planning and theoretical things that we did, And we did this, I thought at the time, very detailed. I thought maybe this was too much at a certain time. But looking back, I think we did the right thing. And that was, from the start, we incorporated change management, right? Change from data, like I mentioned before, aligning to the right things, following the middle line, understanding that there would be some people not happy, and some people would have to accept, taking considerations and expecting things later, right? The second bullet there is really the focus on the stakeholder and change aspects there. We were very fortunate to have very good SMEs involved as well. So subject matter experts in different organizations with different experiences, and you throw two guys in the room that really know the stuff and they come out happy, right? They found a partner to talk it out with. Communication, we had that continuously. Sometimes we had to increase the communication sessions. We had to ensure that dialogue was happening between the right parties, right? Talking about the data, talking about, how we see it in the future even, right? What are those considerations? We knew from a data perspective, there were custom fields, right? And that's easy to detect. Sometimes it's not that easy. But is it still in use? Is it still something that the guys need, right? Those were some of the considerations we had. And then the last point was the organizational interventions, right? So we had to escalate sometimes, right? Had to talk to management. We had to get buy-in for the management to allow their people to work with us on the project, right? So whether it is a 10% in this month, we needed that guy, or we needed a 50% commitment from that guy, right? And I think we did it detailed enough so that the management was also happy with us, knowing who's required when. Now, this was an agile approach, so it was all iterative. We changed things along the way, and we tried to make it better as we went along. Our user stories is a typical example of that. We talked to the experts, and sometimes we had to talk 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and we thought we were finished, and then we had to come back later, right? We were flexible in that regard, and we had our functional specs, and of course the migration and the data associated with the migration was also something that was quite interesting, and of course the system integration and the testing and the training was also part of what we did. Now, that was the theory. This was the first part of the reality that I'd like to share with you. And the basis for the change, the old technology that we had in the 3.6 system, it was not reliable anymore. It was on-premise. It was there was a definite need to go to something new, right? That was one of the things. The integration part, the harmonization, as I mentioned before, that was the second part, and then, of course, the commitment to get the money to do the project, right? So we did that, and everybody was supportive of that. And we continued with creating those functional specification documentations, creating the user stories, understanding what the needs were of the people. And then there was a hiccup, right? We went uphill and we thought it's going to be downhill from here. And there was a stop, right? And I'd say this was really related to the data, right? The understanding of the data. And this was, when we were doing the showcases and we were starting to show what we wanted, it took too long, right? And looking back, one of the main reasons was that the partner that we were working with at the time didn't have enough knowledge, right? And we were constantly fighting a battle with somebody. Sometimes we felt we knew much more than that partner of ours, right? And we were always pushing back and forth, and this resulted in a decision where we said, okay, we have to stop the project, and we have to reevaluate that, right? So what we then decided was we wanted to go to the cloud, right? That was easy, right? Let's go there. But it's not simple as the one sentence that's there, right? The initial goal of the 4.5 version, right, was attainable, we thought. And the nice thing about what we did, because we went back to the basic, because we went back to the standard, this new decision was relatively easy for us to do, right? So we were able to say, we throw away all of the customization, or not all of it, but as much as we can, and the configuration would be our main focus, right? And by doing that, it enabled us to go to the cloud, right? We had to evaluate the cloud. Is it really ready? Having said that, is a couple of years before this, we evaluated the cloud also, and at that time, our decision was it was not ready, okay? Now, going to the cloud has its own challenges. Of course, the benefits would be to go to the cloud would be no updates or update projects. It would happen automatically. This slide I put in specifically there because the people saw what we did in the first part of the project, right? We had the integration, we had the talking with the people, we knew we had a very good basis to go forward with, and everybody was supportive of this decision to stop, and then later on to fund the rest of the project to go to the cloud, right? We had a difference in the initial approach, which was supposed to be a big bang. All 25 sites go into the system with one go, right? We decided with the break to split it into 2 phases, where we would take the 136 system first, go to the cloud with that, and then afterwards we would do the 4.5 system and take that to the cloud, right? We also had a small, I wouldn't say a small difference there, differentiation there, that we took the mechanical integrity because of its complexities. We decided to bring that over in phase 2 as well. I think the willingness of the people to take that forward, that was really for us a great thing. And then also to be ready from a sustainment portion of view. The project success factors is something which I like to take a little bit more time and talk you guys through that, right? So when we decided initially to take the decision to do a project, it was big, right? It was really a big initiative. If you think about 25 sites, and you think about 25 key users, and you think about we're using all the modules in the system, right? You have experts. It could be the same key user, but it could be additional people as well, right? There's complexities that people know certain things. People are really adamant. They've done a lot of work in the past in the system, and they want to see their initial work also available in the new system. And some of them were quite concerned that it would not be available in the new system. We had to really talk with them quite a bit to ensure them that it's there. And the stick to standard and no customization decision we took initially was really, really important for us, and it paved the way for us to go forward, right? The nice thing about talking with the supplier in this case was, you know, it was also developing. I mentioned initially that the road was winding, and you know, the customizations we threw out, but the product developed it as well over time. So when we were starting with the project, it was, you know, or the last part of the project, we were thinking of version 5, and then actually we're live in 5.1.2 now, if I'm correct. Maybe somebody help me out here. Okay. And you know, the configurations nowadays allows us to do much more than what was initially thought of. So the policies and what we can do there, it really helped us with the state management. That piece also really helped us. And reflecting back, I think also one thing we did very well was, you know, allow for changes, right? So if there was really some big concerns, we went back, right? And we decided to relook at that. And also, given that GE was also updating its software, we sometimes were forced to go back, right? Where we thought initially VB changes would not be covered by policies, later on it was, right? So we were now able to push some state management through policies which wasn't possible before. things like ASI, which wasn't initially there, right? ASI is now available, it's in the cloud, and we're able to go there after go live. We're going to do that piece. I think, yeah, the last part I mentioned, the experts, you know, they understand their data in the system, and they're able to work with the standardized landscape now, right? We're very excited about what the future holds, and we try to stay close to what the developments are, and from that perspective also, if it's reporting that's currently standard from a GE perspective, the interfaces to SAP, those things are working, right? Those were very fundamental things that we're happy to say is working, and the guys can see their data at the user level as well. This part is the change, right? And the project. And from now on, it's really for us to go forward, and the project ends in July, the first week of June, we're going to end that. And then from there on, we've already set up a program, right? And this is the important piece that I want to also mention to you. The program is something that takes it forward, right? We're going to use all the information that we had as part of the project. We're setting up a second project, basically, to support the guys with adoption going forward, right? From that perspective also, you know, we're looking for the road ahead. We know that some changes will happen in the upcoming releases, and all those 25 sites that's there are, you know, going to be supported by us from a central function. And then also, what we've created now is really those communities. We're working together in the project. We'll now have those contacts, and they can share their information as we go along.